We were recently able to borrow a drywall lift to help us hang this drywall on the ceiling, and it made it go so much faster and so much easier. If you've ever tried lifting 5/8 drywall onto the ceiling and holding it while screen, it is not easy at all, especially because these ceilings are 9 foot, so we only have ladders and platforms to stand on, and we really needed something that was more stable to get us up taller, and we just didn't have anything. So thankfully we were able to borrow this, and it did make the process go a lot more faster. But I will say I would not recommend this, especially if you have never done this yourself before, because it was a little bit wobbly, and honestly it was very nerve-wracking to hang this the entire time because it was a little bit unstable. And we set it up correctly, we watched videos on how to do it and everything, but we're not sure if the machine or contraption, whatever you want to say, was just a little bit weak. I don't know, but we do know that it's a cheaper brand. It's just from Harbor Freight, but we were thankful we were able to borrow it, and it did make things go a lot easier. But if you are doing this DIY, I'm not sure I would recommend this, especially if you don't do it professionally, just because it was very, very nerve-wracking and it could be dangerous. But thankfully we got it hung, and we don't have to worry about it anymore. We just have a few pieces left on the ceiling around the fireplace that we need to finish, but they're small and we can hang those without this drywall lift. But we do have to wait until we can go back to Lowe's whenever it's not raining to get some more drywall. The lift was rated to do 16-foot sheets, but right here we're just using an 8-foot sheet, and we were so thankful that we did not end up getting the 12-foot, just because we're not sure that we would have been able to handle the 12-foot sheet of drywall with the lift. You have to balance it out, and it was a little bit tricky to figure out, but we did get it figured out, and we safely hung the drywall. We're just glad it's over with. This video was taken over the course of 2 weeks. We hung the drywall one weekend, and then the next weekend, which was this past weekend, we did all of this work. So I started by peeling the paint on this door, and I was doing this. I know so many of you recommended to flip the door around because there's no paint on the other side, but either way, I want this lead paint off of the door. I would rather go ahead and get it done and over with and peeled, which I'm using the Hour paint stripper in this video, and I like it a lot better than the heat gun, but it is a little bit slower than the heat gun, but it's supposed to be safer because it doesn't allow the lead paint to get hot enough to emit the fumes. So that's why I'm not wearing a mask here, but I have a video on my channel that I can link down below that I go over the best way to peel lead paint. But not even the fact that this was lead paint, more so the fact that this paint was gatored or just cracked. They call it gatoring, but whenever you paint over top of it, it causes the new layer of paint to crack also. I've tried using it's Zinsser, it's by Zinsser. I'll have to see if I can find a link to it, but it fills in the cracks. I've tried that before and it still ends up cracking. I'm not sure why, but a lot of you guys say that you have had success with that. I have not. So that's why I'm going to go ahead and peel the paint on this door and hopefully refinish it. I'm not sure if I'm going to paint it or end up staining it. I haven't decided yet. I'm also going to be refinishing the hardware on this door. It's Eastlake hardware, and if you've ever seen it before, it is such a beautiful detailed hardware. But as you can see here, I am really struggling to get it off. They painted over top of the hardware. This door had all of its original hardware except for the doorknobs, so I am going to have to go get a doorknob off of one of the broken doors in the house, because if you've seen any of the videos on my channel before, we do have a lot of broken and busted doors that are not salvageable. So for now, we're just taking parts off of those to fix the doors that we do keep. So I just now finished peeling the paint on the door that much, but I have to stop for now because I have to go meet Ben so that we can pick up the floor sander and go get some supplies from Lowe's. But this is what it looks like. There are some burn marks in it like always, but that'll come out whenever I sand it. And then the hardest part is getting in these cracks to get that paint out. But I still cannot decide if I'm going to be painting all the doors and trim or if I'm going to be staining. But I'm going to wait until I get the wallpaper up and the floors, because it's really going to be based on how the floors look. Because we're also going to see how the floors compare to the kitchen floor where they butt up together. And that way we can see. But so far I am really liking the wood look, but it'll kind of just depend on what it looks like next to the wallpaper. So I am not sure if we're going to flip the door yet or not. I know a lot of you guys suggested to flip it just so that it matches this door. This door is actually not going to be staying here. This door actually goes upstairs to this bedroom right above us, and we're keeping that door with that room up there because it is all the original stain and it is in like perfect condition, just like that door. So we're going to be taking that back up there. But that's the hardest thing about this house is none of the doors are the exact same size. Like every one is like an inch off, a quarter inch off, or whatever, because they're each custom to how the doorway was. And like this doorway and that doorway right there, they actually don't have the doors, and this one did not have the door either. So this door will be going back upstairs as soon as we're done with the dining room renovation. That's why we put it down here, was simply because we wanted to keep the dust out of the kitchen. But after we're done, this door is going to get taken down and put back upstairs so it doesn't get mixed up. And we will need to find another door, because I do want doors eventually. I just think they're really nice and like to shut a door or whatever. And plus they were originally intended there, but we will have to buy doors. So we need to buy quite a few doors for down here on the main level. But it's just going to have to be in due time because they are super hard to find the exact measurements. And honestly, we may actually have to get them made. I hate that it is so dark in here, but we just got back from getting the floor sander and we picked up the dining room, swept the floor and stuff. And we are about to start sanding. We were picking out nails right here. The only thing we're concerned about is this old laminate flooring glue and stuff. So we are going to be wearing respirators and hopefully it goes good. I don't know. We're curious about if the pad is going to be able to take this off or if we're going to have to scrape it all off. So our plan is to sand the floor and then sand the walls, and we need to get drywall to finish this up here, but it has been constantly raining, so we have not been able to haul any drywall. But we need to wait on it to quit raining so that we can hang the drywall up there. And we are going to be doing beadboard on the ceiling, and I'm still not sure about the door. I'll probably take the door down and work on refinishing it. I tried to get as much footage of us sanding the floor as possible, but it's really hard just because it makes the camera so dusty that most of the footage isn't usable by the time we get any amount of the floor sanded at all. But we rent this floor sander and it's only like $50 a day. So we did have it for 2 days though, just because the laminate, the strip in front of the where the laminate flooring was, that held us up for quite a while on this night. And we were supposed to have it back the next day, and we ended up not making it in time. But we started out with a 24 grit just to get all of the paint and stain off, which the paint and stain was only around the perimeter of the room. They did that a lot of the times back in the day to save money, and because they had rugs over the majority of the room. So the perimeter of the room was what took us the longest, but the 24 grit did an awesome job. We ended up doing 2 passes with the 24 grit, and then we moved on up to a medium grit and then our finishing grit. So it is the next day. I have not been good at filming. This morning we had to go pick up the bull and bring it back here. So we have been doing that, but whenever we got back, I finished peeling the paint on this door. So the closet door is gone. I went ahead and put it on sawhorses in the living room so that I could start sanding that down whenever I get some time. And then last night we worked so late, and we did finally get all of this off the floor, that linoleum glue backing or whatever. I don't really know what it was. It was like the paper to the back of linoleum flooring is what it was. So we finally got that off, and now we just need to take we're using 24 grit, and we're just working our way up. So we're using the 24 grit right now just to get the old stain and paint off of the floors. We do have to use the shop vac very, very frequently. So after we sand for a little bit, then we go back with the shop vac and sweep up. And we also did get the walls sanded, so they're completely done now. But this side of the room got pretty much done last night. The 24 grit did good on it, and then we come over here and start working on that, and we spent forever on this. So we do have to work on this section of the room and get that closet, and then we will slowly work our way up to sandpaper. We are officially finished sanding the floors. We still have some work left to do. We have to replace this board. It's a replacement board that they put down, and we're gonna fix it better. We're gonna try and pull from the room above us, I think, because that floor up there is completely ruined in front of the windows because the windows were busted out. So the floors up there are ruined and they will have to be replaced. Over here where there wasn't any water damage, I think we're gonna try and pull one from there, hopefully, if we can make it happen. Right here in front of the kitchen floor, there are so many staples, and the floor is just in really bad shape because that's tar paper from the kitchen. And I don't know if you guys remember, but there was like tons of layers of flooring. And honestly, I'm not even sure if that's on my YouTube channel. It may just be on Instagram whenever we were doing that demo. But that's what all this is. So what we're gonna do is cut a piece of flooring to fit through here and just come out from the kitchen floor. So it's gonna match the kitchen floor. So we're gonna do one more board and then a transition strip. Maybe even two more boards depending on how wide they are. But that way the transition strip will come over into here and cover all these staples and all that damage. But it's not worth trying to take up just for that little bit of space. So we are just gonna replace that. And as you can see, there's quite a bit of damage and stuff like that. So the floors just aren't in good shape right there, which is why we put new flooring over top of the old floors in the kitchen. Around this pipe right here in the dining room, we are also going to pull these boards up. They obviously had to run plumbing at some point, and they cut out the floor right here to put the pipe in, and they may have even fixed a problem here before, but it's cut out perfectly for it, and it's nailed down, so we're gonna have to pop it back out and try and sand around it. Other than that, the floors look great. There are a few stains, and it's kind of special though because we know what each one is, so we don't really mind and care about getting them out. Like one right here, that is from whenever we bought the house. We had tore out all the carpet and stuff, and we're trying to clean up the farm, and a cow got in here and pooped in the floor. So that's a stain. Stain right here in the middle of the floor is where our house got so cold last year. Ben's brother put a pop in the floor, and whenever he was here working with us, and he forgot it, and it just like froze and busted in the floor. So that's what that is. Over here, if you remember from the very, very beginning of our channel, we used to have a wringer washer that sat right here, and it leaked oil, and that is what that is. And that is the worst stain that we have, but we cannot get it out. So it just kind of is what it is. But my favorite part of this whole floor is this little patch that they put in. And I'm not sure what it was or what was here, but they just put a little wood patch in, and I love it. I think it adds so much character. So last night I ended up laying down this paper. It's not taped down or anything so that we can still pull up this right here, because we do have to still replace this board, and then we have to work over there on that by the pipe still also. But since we still have a little bit of work to do on the floor, I figured I would go ahead and start priming the walls and then start hanging the wallpaper. And it snowed last night, so it's super bright in here, so I feel like you're gonna finally actually see everything. It's been so dark the past few days, and we do most of our work at night. Since we are going to be hanging wallpaper over top of the drywall, we had to prime it first, just because it's recommended that you seal the drywall with some kind of primer first so that the wallpaper glue doesn't get soaked up by the drywall paper. Because if it gets soaked up by the drywall paper, then it won't allow the wallpaper to actually stick, because then the wallpaper is not getting the glue, the drywall is. Hopefully that makes sense. But we just had to seal this, and I don't really ever plan on removing the wallpaper, but this also makes it so that you can remove the wallpaper and it doesn't damage your walls as you're taking it off. So that is why we primed, but hopefully we just always stick with wallpaper and just wallpaper over. I don't ever really plan on going back to painted walls in here. I was actually gifted this wallpaper by Sandberg Wallpaper Company, and it was my first time ever hanging wallpaper. So I started in the closet just so that I could get the hang of it and get a feel for it. And I watched a ton of YouTube videos on how to hang wallpaper, but I have come to find that you really just have to get in your own routine and rhythm with hanging it, and you have to find what works for you, because I tried so many things that other people said it worked for them and how they like to do it, but it just didn't work for me. So I finally got in a groove and was able to hang the wallpaper in here in the closet pretty quickly, but the hardest part is just lining up the seams. I did not expect it to be that hard, but it is so beautiful once it's hung. I was honestly so thankful that we had this closet in the dining room that I could practice on first, just because I still am not sure on the corners. I have still been watching YouTube videos trying to figure out how to line up the corners and make them perfect, but I'm just not sure it's going to be able to happen. Most people just say to line up the pattern the best you can, and I am going to try that. But in here in the closet, we did experience, which we knew it was going to happen just because it is an old house, but it is not perfectly level, so that is why you always have to start with the straight line and get a level to do that. So I did start with a straight line, but we still ran into some problems of the wallpaper not looking straight just because the corner wasn't straight. So thankfully that was in the closet and hidden, but I'm sure I will run into that out here in the main part of the dining room also. But I am actually still working on hanging the wallpaper. When you guys are seeing this, I'm editing this on Wednesday night, and you'll be seeing it tomorrow. So I'm still working on the wallpaper in the main dining room. I've still only got the 3 sheets hung. I am just trying to take my time with it and be patient so that I can learn as I go. But also, I have to remind myself that if I mess up, it's okay. But I love the fact that if you get it up there, then you still have enough time with the glue to move it around and perfect it. And that is one of my favorite things about this, because a lot of people told me to go with the pill and stick wallpaper, but I'm actually so thankful I didn't. But if you have hung wallpaper before and you have any tips or tricks on how to line up the corners and get your corners perfect, especially on an old house that is not perfectly level, then leave them in the comments down below, because like I said, I'm still working on the dining room wallpaper, and so far I've actually not even hung any of the corners in the dining room. So I still have time to read your comments and try any of your tips and tricks that you may have for me. I know that this is not the proper way to hang wallpaper, and I think, like I said, everybody just has to find what works for them, because since these are 9-foot ceilings, I did find that putting glue on the top half of the wall, doing it until I could reach it on the floor, and then raising the wallpaper back up and finishing the bottom half is what worked best for me, just because it gave me time to work with the top half before the bottom half of the paper got stuck to the bottom half of the glue, if that makes sense. So I wasn't having to fight the entire sheet, I was just working on half the sheet at a time. When Ben got home from work, he got straight to work on fixing this board in the floor. He was removing that metal plate that they had covering it and pulling it up, which, as you can see here, they more than likely just put this board down as a filler. There was probably some kind of damage to the wood, but the only reason that they had the metal plate over top of it was because the board was too short. So they could have just fixed the entire problem by putting a longer board in there and not having to have that metal plate over top of it. But thankfully we were able to find a board in the upstairs bedroom that fit this space perfectly. All of our floors, they range in widths from 3 inches all the way to 6 inches, so we were able to find one that fit right here. We sanded it down and it will now match, because all the floors in our house are a mix between they're poplar and they are pine. So we don't know the reason why. Obviously it was done over 100 years ago, but there is a mix of poplar and pine. That is why we went with poplar in our kitchen, and we think it'll match perfectly. But this replacement board already matches so much better. The board that was previously here was pine, but it was a new pine, so the wood grain did not match at all. So far, this is how far I've gotten on the wallpaper. I got this much hung, and then also what was in the closet. But this week I'm going to continue working on hanging wallpaper, and I hope that we can get the floor sealed, and hopefully that will be in our next dining room renovation. But that is it for this video, so thank you guys for watching, and I hope you guys will like and subscribe.